So it's getting to be that time of year. I figured today would be a good day to make some ornaments. I've got some kiln-dried cherry, some kiln-dried maple, some markers, some dyes, some other things. We're going to maybe do 2 or 3 different styles. So ornaments can be fun to make because you can just kind of play around with the shapes, try different styles, very low risk project. You're not wasting a lot of wood or anything like that. So I've got my centers marked, and I think got about 3 by 3 here and about 2.5, 2 3/4 square here. I'm going to first round them out between centers, and then I'm going to put a tenon on this one. I'm going to split this one in half, put a tenon on each side so I can just have a shorter length to work with in my chuck, and that way I can have more access to the blank, but not a lot of vibration or anything, something that'll be an appropriate length to have in a chuck. Since I'm doing spindle work, I'm starting out with my roughing gouge just to take each blank down to round, and then on this longer one I'm going to divide it in the center and put a tenon on each side. And what you'll see me using here is basically a homemade began tool, and I'll just make a little gap, true up the corners with the point of the chisel, and now I have my 2 tenons. And I'll just cut that in all the way through, and now the cherry block. I'm just going to do the same sort of thing with that, except I'll just add a tenon onto one end of it. Now I have one of those maple blanks in the chuck, and I'm going to start out making our Christmas tree shape. I am using a spindle gouge. Now I just switched to a different spindle gouge, and that's not my strongest tool. I'm not getting a very clean cut with it, not very straight cut with it. So I'm coming back with the bowl gouge, which I'm a little more comfortable with, and just shape up that tree shape. Now I'm using that bedan tool again, just making the bottom of the tree shape, and then that little area will turn into the tree trunk by the time we're at the end of this. So next I'm just sanding it up a little bit, then I'm going to use the point of my skew to just make a mark, divide it into about 6 parts, then I flip the skew over and make each of the cuts with the... And now you can see where I'm taking it down to the trunk shape, make one last cut, clean it up. Alright, we've got our tree shape, and I've just used the point of the skew to make a few grooves, just to give a little bit of simple embellishment. And now I'm going to add some color. These are just acrylic paint markers. Each one is double-sided. There's a fine side and like a more brush type side. And I find these actually work surprisingly well. It's kind of an odd selection of greens, but it works nonetheless. And I've got quite a few colors to choose from. So these are handy for things like ornaments and spinning tops, stuff like that. And I also have a whole tray of trans tint over there that we'll get into maybe on the next one. So I'm pretty much just going to alternate colors. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. do 3 different greens, rotate through those, and then do the trunk brown. I get my speed down. I was at like about 1400, 1500 RPMs to turn it. Now I'm down to like 400-ish. With the lathe running, I'm just applying the acrylic paint with the markers, and I'll do one coat in one direction, then I'll reverse the direction of the lathe and put a second coat on, and then I'll part the piece off. After parting off the ornament, all I have left to do is drill a little hole in the top and insert the screw eye. Now I'm moving on to the second ornament out of that maple blank. It's going to be a little more traditional shape, sort of a radish shape. You'll notice I just had a little catch there, so got to take a little more off. And now, once I have that smoothed out, I'm going to use my more finer point spindle gouge to get into that tight spot and make the little cap for the ornament. Next, I'm going to sand off the tool marks, smooth it out a little bit more. I think I had a little high spot there. I like to power sand whenever possible. It definitely helps speed the process up, and this has a little bit of figure in it, so reversing direction and using power sander can help deal with that figure in the wood. So finish up my sanding here. I'll use some shavings just to not really burnish it, but kind of clean it up. A little more cleanup with the spindle gouge, and then I'll be applying the red color. What I'm using here is trans tint, and I'm diluting it with water by just using a small piece of a rag, spraying some water on the rag, a couple drops of the trans tint, and then apply it directly to the ornament. So then I come in with my silver acrylic marker and color the cap portion. Then I'll just use my thin parting tool and part this one off. Please note when you're parting these off, I've got my hand around it, but I'm not really touching the piece. I'm just kind of creating a little cage for it to fall into once it separates from the tenon. And now we're on to the third ornament. This one is going to be a little more abstract. It's just a simple design that I have used several times. On this piece, the cherry is a little bit longer than the maple, so I'm pulling up my tailstock for a little extra support in the beginning. So we've got the shape, and now I'm just going to get that point off and get the tailstock out of the way. And now touch up the little cap. Then I will sand through a few grits and use some of the shavings, not so much to burnish it again, but just to kind of clean it up. And it does make the wood look a little better. So here are 3 ornaments. We have a painted one, a dyed one, and a natural one. I went ahead and cleaned them up and screwed the eye screws in, and I also oiled the cherry one. You could use friction polish on it. I'm not a big fan of the look of friction polish on raw wood, so I like to use oil. It gives it a little more richness and depth. So that's what I did with that one. So with these two, this one is, it's acrylic paint. It should be good to go. This one, I'll spray a light coat of lacquer over it. It's raining today, so not the greatest day to do it. So I'm not going to go through that, but just light coat of lacquer. I guess you could use shellac, whatever you prefer. Just something to seal that dye in so it doesn't transfer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the project. I hope you learned something. So hit like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I try to respond to as many as I can, and I hope that you will come back for the next video. Thanks for watching.